In the news this week, recession fears with decreased spending is the worst yet to come for the Australian economy.
Jobs on the rise in renewable energy for West Australians as the state government invests in a solar microgrid.
Police have arrested 3 people relating to drug seizures off the Geraldton coast.
And Australian Chinese gathered to celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year festival.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Leung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. With Australia's unemployment rate attributing to a decreased overall spending, the economy is trudging along, neither increasing or decreasing. The government's cash handouts and reduced tax rates is failing to see a boost, keeping spending at a low. Will there be another recession soon? Taylor Hannah takes a look.
As the economy remains somewhat constant, Australians are feeling the pinch, resulting in lower spending on their costs of living. A possible recession would see businesses having big slowdowns and a reduced level of spending, mimicking the pressures we are already seeing now.
It's usually only after the fact when we look back at data, and then we will realize that okay, that was the recession back then. Or perhaps we can see that, and in the case of the global financial crisis, all the rest of the world had a recession and we just missed it by a little bit. That's something that we only know after the fact.
Certified financial planner Elson Goh said very low wage growth and uncertainty over job security attributes to the slowing economy.
The biggest or most effective way is for governments to spend on infrastructure builds, and they will create jobs. They will spur up the economy. Cash hands out by the governments are a short-term measure. It is easy to implement, but the full effects it's not as effective because people can still choose not to spend the money.
If a recession does hit, Mr. Goh believes this will have a huge impact on us, especially here in WA. Taylor Hannah, WAMN News.
Renewable energy is taking centre stage in job creation, with the state government promising thousands of new jobs in a solar microgrid project in Mandurah. Energy experts claim the sector is the biggest job producer, despite concerns about falling investment in renewable energy. Nelson Liu reports.
Switching on with the sun for WA's economy.
I'm forever talking about sustainability.
The state government has renewable energy in its sights, developing a solar microgrid for businesses in the Peel region.
Enwave is going to build a ground-mounted solar farm here on site at the Peel Business Park, along with battery storage assets.
More jobs is the focus, with the project expected to put nearly 4,000 people into work.
We are a government that's very much determined around creating jobs for Western Australians.
This is the future for our young kids coming through high school.
But experts say potential for expansion could create more jobs in asset manufacturing. What are the benefits for local residents if we include them in the system?
By bringing in a software provider to this project with Enwave Australia, the microgrid provider, Western Power, what we can actually do is allow those residents to sell their surplus energy into the microgrid, into the industrial microgrid, creating a sizable return on investment.
Concerns remain over falling investment in renewables nationally because of energy policy, but Peel Solar Grid could expand to residents in the future.
What you can then do is offer electricity at a much more affordable rate.
Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
3 more men have been arrested following the discovery of 1 ton of illicit drugs on the Abrolhos Islands last week. The UK, US and New South Wales men were arrested at Perth Airport on Wednesday, charged with conspiring to possess and sell drugs, including methamphetamine. All 3 men were refused bail and appeared in Perth Magistrates Court on Thursday, following the arrest of 2 men last week as part of Operation Shipton.
We know that drug trafficking is a global issue. I expect that we'll continue to work very closely with our international law enforcement partners. This seizure of over 1 tonne is not just a tremendous result for all Australians, because we will be alleging that some of these drugs would have been transported further throughout Australia. But there are clearly international connections.
As the Cockburn Council deliberates over the semantics of the new port pitch, the Fish Army hopes to assist the council in making the right decision, being to seize their support for the outer harbour in Cockburn Sound. Tim Barlow, co-convener of the Fish Army, said the Westport Task Force's processes have not been transparent and they already had a predetermined outcome. Mr Barlow said they won't stop fighting and calls on the council to give it up.
There's no justification for closing a viable working port that has got 140 years of history, that employs thousands directly and many thousands indirectly. It's the heart of Fremantle. To actually rip the heart out of Fremantle, shut the port down so a few people can make a lot of money from real estate, and then move to Cockburn Sound and absolutely destroy the environment down there.
As mental health awareness increases with such events like Are You OK Day this week, it's more important now than ever to identify the effects of mental health issues on everyone, but in particularly young people. Colin Petty, Commissioner for Children and Young People, said early intervention is essential. Community awareness and mental health events give a license to remind people to share their problems with people they trust.
One of the problems with mental health is you actually need to talk face to face with someone you trust, someone who's going to give you good advice. We know in any walk of life, doesn't matter what the issue is, early intervention is the key to make a better life further on. So in terms of mental health, if we don't get it right early, the mental health issues just expand.
Protesters in Hong Kong have surrounded the British consulate, urging the British government to stand up for Hong Kong. As the demonstration dragged into its 14th week, demonstrators say protests won't stop until all the demands were met by the government. Last week, the city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, announced a formal withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill, hoping to reduce anger. In the United States, the third live television debate for the Democrats' presidential candidates was broadcasted. Three frontrunners, including Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, focus on health reform for elderly Americans. The poll shows Mr. Biden is leading with just over 25%, while Mrs. Warren and Mr. Sanders both stood at more than 10%. Other candidates have popularity share of below 10%.
As the harvest moon made an appearance this weekend, the Chinese community celebrates the auspicious MidAutumn Festival. Marking the middle of the Chinese lunar calendar, the culture of this festival means you'll have a good year to come and acts as a preparation for the winter months. The big harvest moon signifies a good environment and encourages unity and evokes happiness for the family.
Whatever the Mid-Autumn or Chinese New Year, those festivals, they all mix their relatives. So today is special because we all have the same moon, the biggest moon in a year. So the people watch the moon, celebrate, like a family unites together again through the sky.
And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have all the latest news on our website and Facebook page.
Until next Sunday after 8, thanks for being there. Thanks for watching. Good evening.
Good night.